It's Professor Moreland, and let's finish up with other non-product marketing. Now, these are not services per se, but the marketing of them is similar to service marketing because, like services, they are intangible. And those areas are internal marketing, nonprofit marketing, political marketing, place marketing, and idea marketing. So let's go ahead and start with internal marketing, and let's define that. Internal marketing is treating employees as customers and developing systems and benefits that satisfy their needs. So it is marketing to your employees. And of course, probably the first question you might ask is, well, why? Don't you just pay them and just tell them do this? Well, especially in a service environment, you want to treat it a little bit differently than that. And here's a good reason why. Your employees interact with the customers. So your employees are part of the customer experience. Your customer expects something from your organization. Your organization makes a promise to the customer. That's what you tell the customer in the external marketing. But now the customer comes in and interacts with the employee, so the employee really has to deliver that promise. Well, the employee needs to know exactly what is expected, and so that's where internal marketing comes in. You enable the promise. You make sure that the employee knows what is expected of them, and so the whole process of internal marketing is having a company-wide process by which you make sure that those employees are ready to deliver the promise. If you want to think of it this way, your organization has a certain culture. Well, that's part of the whole process. What culture do you want to create and nurture? Obviously, you want to get the best possible employees, so you want top quality there. One part of that is what's in it for the employees, the rewards that they get. Obviously, compensation is a reward, but also a positive work environment. You can keep making employees better and better through training and other motivational methods, and ultimately that will create the overall staff that you want. So that's what internal marketing is all about. You want employees to be happy to work there. You want employees to, like their job. Every year Fortune comes out with the 100 best companies to work for, and every year, take a wild guess, what company is at the top of that list? Yeah, it's Google. Here are some very, very, happy, motivated Google employees. Now, you might think, well, sure, it's easy for people that are making a lot of money working on really, really interesting things that typically graduated near the top of their class from really, really good schools. Kind of easy to see how, all of that can, lead to a tremendously, positive, motivating work environment. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a different kind of environment. What companies are maybe not so good to work for? Well, there's also a number of lists, not unlike the Fortune magazine 100 best companies to work for. There are lots of lists of the worst companies to work for. Here's one from the Huffington Post, the 10 worst companies to work for. Keeping employees happy can only improve a company's bottom line. Employee satisfaction can significantly impact the productivity, sales, and reputation of any company. Despite its importance, many companies struggle to keep their employees content. While some companies have policies specifically designed to boost employee morale, others seem to prioritize it less. You'd be surprised, but you know what company never makes lists like this? Walmart, never makes lists like this. McDonald's never makes lists like this. Even when you even narrow it down and just look at the retail sector, the worst U.S. retail industry companies to work for. Yeah, McDonald's, Walmart, never make those lists. And the reason is those companies prioritize employees. Walmart has rallies for employees, often every day before the sales day starts. They get employees enthused and motivated to work. McDonald's does the same thing because it's the McDonald's employee who's delivering the service to the customer. Internal marketing is marketing obviously internally to your employees. Nonprofit marketing. Nonprofit marketing is when nonprofit organizations market. Now, their goal is obviously not profit, hence the term not profit. But these organizations exist to achieve some goal other than the usual business goal of profit. Now, these would be organizations like governments, museums, theaters, schools, churches. Let's look at a couple of examples of that. And I'll start with a government service, the Internal Revenue Service. People like to complain about the IRS, but in my opinion, the IRS has done a great job over the past few years in marketing to their customers. And of course, their customers are everybody that has to pay taxes, which is basically everybody. One thing that I think the IRS does very, very well is communicate exactly, what needs to be done, exactly how you need to do it, proactively addresses problem areas. I can promise you the IRS has gotten a whole lot better than they used to be. They're doing a good job of communicating to taxpayers. Here's a different example. United Way. United Way is an umbrella charity that funds lots and lots of other charities. One of the biggest things that the United Way does is raise funds, get people to contribute. And a very, very clever way that they did that was going into workplaces and convincing workplaces to try to get their employees to contribute to the United Way. Oftentimes they do that with employee drives where they try to get people to give. They oftentimes have matching funds. Well, United Way has done a really, really good job of getting money that way. I mentioned museums. The Norman Rockwell Museum in Massachusetts is a great, great museum. Well, to some extent, you could say, well, they're like a business in terms of they've got to attract people to their museum. And so they do some good marketing and promotion to get people there. Of course, once people are there, they do a very, very good job of delivering on the promise. Another museum in Massachusetts is the Basketball Hall of Fame, which of course is a kind of museum. I think the Basketball Hall of Fame does a great job of promoting what it has and then delivering on the promise once it gets people there. Political marketing. There's no doubt about it. When people run for office, they are marketing. It's not just politicians, but celebrities. They can be marketed as well. One of the great, great, great books I've ever read on this topic was called The Selling of the President, 1968. And if you're the least bit interested in politics, I think this book is worth a read. Now, you might think, well, that's incredibly outdated. That's almost 50 years old. But the thing is, that was really the first U.S. presidential election where modern marketing techniques were used. The people behind Richard Nixon's successful campaign did not come from traditional politics. They came from the areas of marketing and advertising, and it was a complete game changer in how people were marketed. Now let's fast forward 48 years to March 1st, 2016, when almost nobody was considering Donald Trump a serious presidential candidate. Well, John Scully, the marketing genius behind the Pepsi Challenge, who then went on to Apple, he weighed in. And remember, March 1, no one was considering Trump a serious presidential candidate. And here's what Scully had to say. The marketing genius behind the Pepsi Challenge and Apple's 1984 Super Bowl commercial says that Donald Trump is running a brilliant campaign. Scully, a Republican, says that he isn't necessarily endorsing Trump, but he admires his campaign. Quote, Trump is saying that he'll do all these things that seem outrageous, but that he'll get things done, end quote, Scully said. Quote, that's very appealing to a disappearing middle class whose world isn't the same as it was years ago. End quote. Scully said that Trump, more than any other candidate, has tapped into the fact that people are completely fed up with politicians. He acknowledged that Trump has said some outlandish things, but he said that Trump is acutely aware of how his actions are affecting his chances of winning the presidential election. I think Donald Trump is a much smarter person than the media is giving him credit for, Scully said. He makes outrageous statements that aren't backed up by facts, but the people who are enamored with him don't care about the facts. Yeah, uh, there's no doubt about it. Scully called that one, well before the, establishment did. Okay, let's move on to the next one, place marketing. Marketing places is trying to get people to come to your location. It's attempting to position a city, state, country, or other locale so consumers choose the brand over competing destinations. You've heard me talk about the great work of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. They spend more than $45 million a year getting people to come to Hawaii. More than 8 million tourists come to Hawaii every year. It's the lifeblood of the entire state's economy. New York, I think the state of New York did an incredible job with the I Love New York campaign. That's been running for decades, and it touts the very, very positive things that New York has to offer. Uh, you've heard me mention this song from the Beach Boys, Kokomo. We'll get there fast, then we'll take it slow. There is no such place as Kokomo. It's just a song that the Beach Boys made up, and yet the song is so catchy. People get into such a good mood when they listen to it that thousands of people call up travel agents saying, "Hey, I want to book a trip to Kokomo." And of course, Kokomo doesn't exist. Idea marketing. Now, this is gaining awareness for a concept, a philosophy, a belief, an issue. For example, religious institutions market ideas about faith. Another example, environmental organizations market ideas about conservation. We can see how this is done when we look at some ads for ideas. Some marketing ads that we'll look at include littering, drinking and driving, self-medication, human trafficking, organ donation, sustainability. One thing about ads for ideas is they can be very, very dramatic. Here's a great one in my opinion. Littering says a lot about you. Nice graphic there. Very, very nice graphic. How about this one? Kind of stark. Face the consequences or drink responsibly. Notice the turning of the phrase there. It doesn't say drink responsibly or face the consequences. It starts with face the consequences, and you visually see the consequences. Very dramatic ad. How about this one? Can you treat yourself better than your doctor? Yeah, you're playing Russian roulette, if you do. Now, this next ad I don't think is very good, and we'll talk more about what makes an ad good and what makes an ad not so good when we get to advertising, but stop human trafficking. Okay, great. Who could possibly be against the idea of stop human trafficking? Seriously, no one could be against that idea. But this begs the question, okay, so how do we do it? What do I do? That's what I think is wrong with this ad. It just doesn't have any call to action. Here's a great ad. 8 of their organs can be donated. Luckily for us, their brain is not one of them. Humor, but it makes a great point about organ donation. Here's another one where they use humor, I think, quite well. Our number 2 made us number 1. Converting waste into energy helped make the Denver Zoo the most sustainable zoo in the U.S. At Denver Zoo, 80% of our waste, from trash to animal waste, will be converted into clean, sustainable energy. And on it goes, touting the benefits of sustainability. I think a funny, clever ad from the Denver Zoo. Other than products can be marketed, services can be marketed, and of course, companies market internally to their employees, nonprofits market, politicians market, places market, even people that are behind ideas market.